Betty was moody and withdrawn and just a little bit touchy as we drove to that first speaking engagement. As I recall it, it was the first. Actually, I remembered we had a silly argument over directions that really irked me. And once irked, I probably stay irked for a while. At the meeting place, I quickly got over my irritation and sat in amazement, watching and listening as Betty began to speak with a soft and melodious voice, one that I had never heard before. The soft sound of her voice carried throughout the hall. No coughing, no scratching and movement of chairs, no restlessness, just a story, her message, filling the airwaves, keeping us all spellbound. This was my awakening. Over time, bits and pieces that I had retained from what Betty had been telling me began to weave and tie together to form a quilt of understanding. But I still did not comprehend the miracle that I was living with. The tempo of Betty's speaking events increased along with the number of people attending. It was quite an experience, and my amazement at her continuing growth never ceased. Always the same story, differing only with the audience and what they were prepared to hear. Throughout this time, she continued being a wife, a mother, and a homemaker. And none of us, neither me nor the kids, had anything to complain about. Then one day, she came to me with a sheaf of yellow notebook paper. She was writing a book. Could I help her type a draft? The only mechanical help available was an old Royal typewriter that I had rebuilt. And I painted a horrible red. So we began on that. But she was writing new pages and revising old pages faster than that old Royal typewriter and my nimble fingers could keep up with. So with a little manipulation of the budget and a loan from the credit union, I bought a small desktop computer, just like the one I had at work, Joe. You remember those? And we continued writing the book. That is, Betty continued writing the book on her yellow notebooks, while I struggled to keep up, putting her words into the computer. It was an amazing process. Betty wrote as if she had a dictating machine in her head, where she went, pardon me, the darkness was confusing me. And she could recall precise passages in earlier texts where she wanted to insert additional text. And that was quite a remarkable process, because I have spent a good part of my life being a technical writer, and I thought I knew what writing was about. But Betty knew just how the book was supposed to be. She knew what should be in each chapter, in each paragraph. And she had the entire book in her mind. And that's the way it was done. As I continued to type the text and began to follow the storyline, became immersed in it. I was learning as I typed. I would frequently have to take a break to wash the sticky tears out of my eyes so that I could see what I was doing. When we got to the last chapter of Embrace, when we got to the last chapter, do you remember what the last chapter was about? Well, if you don't, it was about our baby, little Betty. Still chokes me up. I can't recall clearly now, but Big Betty must have done a lot of the typing on our last chapter. I couldn't type for crying. Finally, the manuscript was finished, and the search for a publisher began. Betty talked to several publishers, or would-be publishers, but I didn't have the faith or knowledge that Betty had that a publisher would come forward. I felt that after all the work she had put into writing the book, that the book had to be published one way or another. So behind Betty's back, planning on surprising her, which is a bad thing to do, I talked with a friend who was on the loan committee of the credit union. And he tentatively agreed to lend us the money to self-publish through a vanity press. But he would have to take it up with the loan committee. And we were pretty heavily in debt. Suffice it to say that my scheming was not needed. Betty did find a publisher, and therein began a new phase of the delivery of the message that Christ had entrusted to Betty. I am sure others here will speak to what followed that and the following phases. These are a few of my recollections. But these are not recollections of what I accomplished or what I did at the earthly birth of Embraced by the Light. What I did is of no significance and even less importance. What is important is my testimony and the miracle of the transformation of a quite ordinary young woman, shy housewife, wonderful mother, who through a mishap following a routine surgery had an experience with God, who gave her a message to give to the world with guts and determination. She has given that message to the world and has been well received. I love my wife. I love our children. I love Embraced by the Light. and I love all of you.